a really good analogy.
So James, what do you think? I mean, like, for me, I'd like to see the payroll tax cut completely. I'd like to see increases in the earned income tax credit. I'd like to see investment tax credits going to businesses. And some can be, yes, these green jobs and stuff. I just don't think infrastructure and excessive government spending is the way to go.
Well, I mean, the big thing that he needs to do right now, I mean, the main thing is just making sure that unemployment doesn't get higher is a big concern, just politically. And also, even we're both Chicago people here. We can say, inflation's worse than unemployment in terms of a problem in reality. But the thought is that unemployment for most people seems to be a bigger crisis in their daily lives. So, sort of make work programs as a short-term solution to create long-term infrastructure improvements, I think is a good solution. I'm just a bit skeptical of it being able to, of the current sort of climate being able to produce anything good out of it.
Well, I think we've pounded this enough. I mean, this, as I said, the devil's in the details. We still have no idea what's going to happen, so we'll see how it develops over time. And I think, 2010 might shape up to be a very interesting.
Well, what narrative are you guys going to run on? Is it going to be the party, the tightwad party, or is it going to be the party of sort of Sarah Palin, Bobby Jindal, cultural conservatism, but
I think Sarah Palin and Bobby Jindal are very different aspects of the conservative movement, in my opinion. Sarah Palin,
I even agree with that. Bobby Jindal being different than Sarah Palin.
He's different. Well, I mean, he's different in terms of the economics and sort of I think he's smarter than Sarah Palin, and I think people would see that. The big thing is, though, he's on the far right when it comes to the social issues, which I actually think doesn't hurt him in the United States, but arguably hurts him amongst a segment of Republicans. I mean, where are the Wall Street Republicans going to go to? Where
James, as long as he's advocating, if we need a figure, and I'm really glad to see, young people like Tabitha and others and so many on new media sites trying to organize conservatives with a joint unified message of, hello, we messed up. We've disagreed with big government conservatism from the start. But we need to do more about it now. We need to be viable as a party. And I think, the alliance, the coalition of libertarians and Republicans will remain if someone like Jindal keeps on the economic message of empowering the individual. And if Obama's plan does not save the economy, I mean, it'll take time, I grant you, and people will jump to conclusions. But the Republicans could have they could come in with the message of change instead of you getting your tax dollars wasted in all of these bailout programs that we have no accountability in, that the government, then Obama then answers saying that, I'll take care of entitlements, we'll reform entitlements. I have heard that. We've heard that for so long. They did some of that in the 90s, but it's not going to...
Bush failing to privatize Social Security demonstrates that nobody's ever going to touch entitlements again.
They will, but it will be too late. Yeah. They will, but it'll be too late. It'll be another failed government project. And the thing is, Tabitha, you blogged, this is one of the blogs I commented on. You blogged on the difference between libertarians and conservatives. And what I'm afraid of is if we get into this mentality of big government as the answer, this new Keynesian shift for another 30 years like it happened after the New Deal, I'm worried that a lot of conservatives in this country will abandon their fiscal values for a social issue savior.
You're already seeing it with Mike Huckabee.
Right, and I've written about that too. I've written about that too, and I think, we saw. I've talked about this a couple times this week. It's come up. I feel like we've seen that shift in. Okay, Obama is clearly a pro-choice candidate. He's throwing that out there. He hasn't made any compromises about that. He's going to be pro-choice. That's it. And we've seen that come out, and that has not stopped people from shifting over from even the young evangelicals who have been, hugely pro-life. That's one of their platforms. And they shifted from Kerry to Obama in double digits. And the pro-life issue is not going to win. The social issues are not going to win the vote. And the fiscal issues is what's going to... that's what defines a candidate. That's what's going to make him successful or a failure in a lot of ways.
One of the issues that, we thought that Obama put as a selling issue was his foreign policy. And James and I have been, we've gone back and forth because James has some serious problems with the cabinet picks. And now you have Panetta as a CIA head. We have a lot of interesting foreign policy picks that actually, make his foreign policy department look kind of neoconservative in certain ways, like with Susan Rice, who wants military intervention in Africa, for example. But it'll be interesting to see, that, he promised a dialogue. He promised that he'd win the foreign policy issue with dialogue. And now we have the situation in Israel. And this morning, I don't know if our listeners, if y'all heard this, but about 3 rockets were launched into Israel from Lebanon. And the government of Lebanon immediately condemned the action. It was Palestinian supporters basically in solidarity shooting the rockets. And a lot of people think that this is going to escalate into, could escalate into full regional war. I personally don't, because I see Egypt and Syria actually rooting on the sidelines, very, under the wire for Israel, because they see a threat
rooting against their own propaganda, which they do all the time.
A threat to Israel is a way for Iran to increase its power in the Middle East, and I think that's why those countries won't get involved. But I'm very worried. How do you think Obama's going to handle the situation when he comes in office, and what do you think of the general response by the Israelis right now to Hamas? I know that's a big one. I know. Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm just.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's something I haven't written about it because I can't even wrap my brain around it yet.
Right.
Because it's so hard to figure out. Okay, do I disagree with some of the tactics? Yeah, there's some rough stuff going on over there, and they're doing some rough things too. The Israelis are in a rough spot, and they have to do things that I may look at and say, ooh. But then I look at what we did after 9/11, and it's a reaction to an attack, and you have to do what you have to survive. And
right. I mean, the problem is
we're going to see lots of stuff unfold, but I don't know. I'm still going around it every day, and I read these articles every day, and it just, there is no answer at this point. There is no answer.
Right. The problem is always logistics. There's so many variables at work here. I'm not myself. I'm honest. I'm more pro-Israel, but at the same time, I'm going to condemn the civilian attacks. But then, if I condemn attacks that inflict casualties on civilians, I then also have to recognize that it's the Palestinians who go out of their way during truces to put their rockets strategically next to schools and mosques, where the Israelis, as much as they can drop leaflets and warn everyone where they're going to be striking so the Palestinians can fight back, there's going to be civilian casualties. The problem is, Hamas is the type of, they're not on equal ground with Israel, because this is an organization that Hamas you cannot negotiate with.
Right.
I firmly believe that.
I agree that too.
I think it's. Oh, sorry. Well, I think it's going to be very easy for the American left at the moment to again do what we've been doing for the past 8 years, which is blaming Bush. And sometimes it's a reactionary step. I think here it actually has reason. Bush and Rice's affinity for democratization at all costs led to Hamas getting elected to some extent, and their affinity for democracy in areas where it hasn't existed led to sort of these issues where it actually emboldened Islamist groups instead of brought them down. And it's probably the most pro-Israeli presidency we've seen in quite a while. So they haven't been the best neutral negotiators when it comes to the peace process. That said, all of that criticism is going to end on January 20th because it's in the new guy's court, and he has not made any indications of what he's going to do. And on the one hand, I respect that, since it's patriotic not to criticize your president to some extent on or undercut him on foreign policy in this regard. But on the same token, he should at least be doing something in the back channels and being a bit more open about what he will do January 20th. So the world's not caught by surprise.
And the thing is, he openly made statements at conferences in D.C. before with the Israel lobby that he's behind them, he supports them.
He supports responding against rocket attacks.
Responding against rocket attacks.
He said that in the summer.
It makes sense. The thing is, the Israelis. Someone asked me the other day, why are the Israelis, so aggressive in their policy? I'm thinking to myself, they go out of their way to warn where they're going to be striking. The other thing is they say, well, the casualties, they're offset. Their casualties, there's so many casualties on the Palestinian side, which is mainly because the Israelis, when they respond, they want to send a clear message.
Right.
And my thing is, if that's your logic, then you'd have to condemn the United States in World War II, because there were 20 times more casualties on the German side than the U.S. side.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with Obama, it's going to be interesting because he's made pro-Israel points at the same time, and he tried to act bold and audacious when it comes to foreign policy. His demeanor changes and everything.
Right.
That we won't stand for a nuclear Iran.
No, he sounded more hawkish on Israel than any other Democrat.
So it'll be
Hillary Clinton.
It'll be interesting policy because Jim Jones is there too, and Hillary Clinton.
Well, You know, my problem with that, I mean, going back a little bit, I feel like that was Obama's weak spot. So he had to change his demeanor on that and say, look, I really can't handle this, and prove to people that he could, because honestly, that was the one area that John McCain could have killed him.